In the dimly lit attic room of my childhood home, a sense of trepidation settled over me like a shroud. I was just 7 years old, and the creaking floorboards beneath my feet seemed to whisper eerie tales of the unknown. The room, once a playroom for my predecessor's daughters, now felt like a forbidden sanctum, its wooden stairs leading to a closet that seemed to hold secrets I dare not uncover. That night, after watching a horror movie with my family, the sound of a toy echoed through the closet, sending shivers down my spine. I fled to my parents' room, where they reassured me there was no one there. But the next night, the sound returned, this time the clatter of Legos spilling out onto the floor. My dad, growing impatient with my nocturnal fears, locked his door, and I was left to confront the darkness alone. It was then that I heard the unmistakable creak of the closet door sliding open. The moonlight streaming through my window illuminated a figure standing before me, its presence as cold as the night air. I let out a blood-curdling scream, and the figure vanished, leaving me shaken and awed. Years later, on a school trip to Louisiana, I stumbled upon the notorious Myrtles Plantation, rumored to be one of the most haunted places in the country. As our group stood in a dimly lit room, our tour guide spun a tale of a soldier's ghostly piano playing. I heard the unmistakable sound of a piano key, but my friends claimed not to have noticed anything. A fellow student, however, caught my eye, and we exchanged a knowing glance. We had both heard the eerie melody. Around Halloween, my friends and I gathered to share ghost stories. One friend recounted her parents' first date, which ended with a midnight hike up Provo Canyon. As they walked beneath the starry sky, her father's foot hit something soft on the path. Ignoring the ominous feeling, they continued, only to hear footsteps approaching. A serial killer, Ted Bundy, later revealed that he had lured a girl into the same canyon and killed her just moments before hearing the approaching footsteps. He hid in the trees, watching as a man walked by, oblivious to the horror beneath his feet. In the school library, I often found myself working late into the night, surrounded by the musty scent of old books. The stacks, a labyrinth of shelves and study desks, seemed to stretch on forever. One night, as I worked alone in the dimly lit basement, I heard the creaks and groans of the old building. The silence was oppressive, as if the shadows themselves were watching me. It was then that I realized that some secrets were better left unspoken, and that the darkness that lurked in every corner was not always malevolent, but often just a reminder that the unknown was always just a step away. The memories that linger, like the whispers of the past, refusing to be silenced. The stories that haunt us, like the shadows that creep across the walls, reminding us of the unknown. It was a moment, a flash of insight, a glimmer of understanding, that I wish I could erase from my mind. The panic that gripped me, the desperation to escape, the feeling of being trapped, like a fly caught in a spider's web. I was alone, lost in thought, when the noise started. The rustling of pages, the creaking of shelves, the whispers that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. I tried to shake it off, to ignore it, but it only grew louder, more insistent. And then, I saw him. The man with the beard, the baseball cap, the eyes that seemed to bore into my soul. He appeared out of nowhere, like a ghost, and I felt my heart skip a beat. I tried to speak, to ask him what he wanted, but the words got stuck in my throat. He just kept staring, his eyes fixed on me, and I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare. And then, he was gone. Vanished into thin air, leaving me shaken, confused, and scared. I tried to shake off the feeling, to tell myself it was just my imagination, but it lingered, like a shadow, refusing to be extinguished. But I'm not alone. There are others who have experienced the same thing. Stories that echo through the years, stories that haunt us, like the ghosts of our past. The story of the fisherman, the man who sailed the seas, searching for the truth. The story of the couple, who went on a camping trip, and found something lurking in the shadows. The story of the family, who stayed in a haunted hotel, and experienced the strange and inexplicable. These stories, they're not just stories. They're a reminder that there's more to this world than what we can see, more to this life than what we can touch. They're a reminder that there's something out there, something that's waiting for us, something that's watching us, always. And I'm still waiting, still searching, still trying to make sense of it all. Because, in the end, it's not just about the stories, it's about the truth. The truth that lies beyond the veil, the truth that's waiting to be uncovered. So, I'll keep searching, keep seeking, keep telling the stories. Because, in the end, it's not just about the stories, it's about the truth. As the thunderstorm raged on outside, I found myself cozied up in bed, the rhythmic patter of raindrops on the roof lulling me into a state of relaxation. I loved drifting off to sleep during storms, the soothing sound of the raindrops a gentle lullaby that seemed to wash away all my worries. But just as I was about to succumb to the sweet embrace of sleep, I heard a faint, peculiar noise, not the raindrops, but a distinct thud against the windowpane. I hesitated for a moment, thinking it was just the wind or a stray branch, but my curiosity got the better of me. I lifted my head, my ears straining to pinpoint the source of the sound. Suddenly, the same noise repeated itself, this time louder and more insistent. My heart began to race as I realized it was a rock hitting the window, with an unsettling regularity. My mind scrambled to make sense of this bizarre occurrence. Could it be my dad, trying to get my attention? But why wouldn't he call or knock on the door instead of hurling rocks? The uncertainty was unnerving, and I found myself frozen in my bed, my eyes fixed on the window as if mesmerized. The TV, which had been playing softly in the background, was now silenced, and the only sound was the raindrops and the ominous thuds against the pane. But as the rocks continued to hit the window, their rhythmic pounding growing faster and more insistent, I knew I had to do something. The rain, which had been pounding down relentlessly, was starting to let up, and the sudden silence was almost deafening. It was then that I heard the distant rumble of a truck engine, its loud growl a stark contrast to the peaceful atmosphere that had just prevailed. The sound was so loud it seemed to shake the very foundations of my house, and I knew I had to take action. With a surge of adrenaline, I leapt out of bed and ran down the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. I was determined to call the police, to get some help and put an end to this unsettling ordeal. But as I approached the front door, I hesitated, my hand reaching for the phone. That was when I saw it. A face, peering through the glass window at the top of the door, a smile spreading across its features. For a fleeting moment, our eyes locked, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. My instincts screamed at me to get out of there, and I sprinted to the kitchen, grabbing a knife for protection. I called the police, my voice shaking as I tried to explain the situation to the dispatcher. They assured me that an officer was nearby and would be there shortly. Meanwhile, the person outside continued to try and force their way in, attempting to ram the door open. I stood frozen, my knife at the ready, as the door creaked and groaned under the pressure. But then, as suddenly as it had begun, everything stopped. The rocks ceased hitting the window, the door ceased its battering, and the sounds of the truck engine faded into the distance. I was left standing there, my heart still racing, my senses reeling from the intensity of the experience. It was then that I heard the distant wail of a police siren, growing louder with each passing moment. The doorbell rang, and I took a deep breath before opening the door to a startled officer. I recounted the entire ordeal to him, describing the face I had seen, but unfortunately, I couldn't provide any information about the vehicle. If only I had taken a quick glance out the window, I might have been able to give the police a crucial lead. But in the heat of the moment, I had frozen, too scared to look. The officer listened intently, his expression grim, and I knew that without more information, the perpetrators would likely remain at large. As I stood there, replaying the events in my mind, I couldn't help but feel a sense of regret. What if I had looked out the window? What if I had seen the license plate number or some other vital clue? The uncertainty was gnawing at me, and I knew that I would never be able to shake off the feeling that I had missed an opportunity to catch the culprits.